With me today is Dipen Mehta, who's the Chief Financial and Operating Officer at Invst with $1.8 billion under management. How do you handle managing a lot more money? How has that evolution been
Yes.
for you?
It's the lessons that you've learned in the past help you understand what happened in the past, but they're not necessarily going to help you be successful in the future. Look at the next 10 years and make a plan for that.
Dipen, how do you manage risk, and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management?
The biggest mistakes we see with risk management is that people are trying to be very sexy. In a lot of ways, they're,
What's the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience or your 30-year-old self?
oh, wow, that's a good one. So
And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle episode. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Dipen Mehta, who's the Chief Financial and Operating Officer at Invst with $1.8 billion under management. Dipen, thank you so much for taking the time today and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
hey, thanks, Adam. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
So Dipen, I always like to begin. Can you please tell us your story and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started out on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange, traded options on the S&P 500 and other equity indexes. Did that for 20 years, ran my own prop trading company. And then, I kind of sold the company in about 2015 timeframe, and then got into the financial advisory space. Um, I I moved to Minnesota. I started leading operations teams, helping with efficiency, digital transformation in the advisory space. Building technology, using technology effectively, and so just got in and helping different companies as a consultant initially, and then now I hold the position as Chief Operating Officer of Invest, and kind of trying to transform our business.
Nice. That's a perfect segue into my next question here. Please tell us about your business, your competitive advantages, and your investment strategy.
Yeah, so Invest is a very unique, non-traditional financial advisory firm. We do holistic financial planning. We do end to end from, we start with the why of an individual. We don't really say, hey, you have to have a certain amount of money to work with us. We work with everyone from, somebody who's starting in their career to somebody who has maybe 100 million in assets. So we were able to, work with all of those types of individuals because of our approach. And our approach is mainly based on a philosophy, a way of thinking, an abundance mindset. So we sort of focus on, hey, what is your why for money? Why do you want to earn money? Why do you want to grow money? And then we walk them through our process, which starts with protection, making sure your estate plans and set up, making sure your cash flow set up. You become a world class saver. A lot of our clients are 35 to 55 years old. They're business owners, and so we try to sort of cater towards them. We have a full service business program for them, so we can help their businesses through different operating systems like EOS. We do assessments that include valuations of companies. So we do a lot of different services from tax planning to tax work, even and across the board to asset management and wealth management. So we're providing a whole host of services where we can be a one-stop shop for those clients.
I love that. So let's talk about risk, Deepan. How do you manage risk, and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest mistakes we see with risk management is that people are trying to be very sexy in a lot of ways. They're hey, like let me show a lot of activity. Like I've seen clients that come in from other advisors to us that try to have like positions that are all over the place, right? They're because of the complexity. People feel that they're getting more of a service, but essentially it's not that complexity that's the problem. It's the strategy. It's not there, And so we feel like risk management starts with a strategy that focuses on what the expectations are of those particular clients. So we do a really thorough evaluation of the client's uh, view on risk, and their view. We look at their factors in terms of their emotional, their their experiential, all of these different factors. Then we determine, hey, this is the right profile for this client, and then we put them in the right sort of portfolios to match that.
I love that. So if I come to you and say, hey, you said 35 to 55, somewhere in that range would be your target. Instead of just saying, hey, go buy 10 stocks and that's it, you're looking at, like you said, the holistic style, make sure that the entire, I guess, what's a good way of saying it? The entire spectrum is covered. So you're not just saying, hey, let's just go do this and not factoring in all the other important things that impact their decisions and their money management and all that kind of fun stuff. So I love that approach. Next question for you. Let's talk about some timeless lessons, Deepan, that you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience.
Sure. Yeah. So some timeless lessons that I feel is focus on uh the relationship. So the relationship is very very important with the client, and understanding that, hey, they're not just a number or an asset under management. They're a human being. They have emotions. They have feelings. They have needs and wants in the world. And so being able to sort of understand the emotional aspect of that is very, very important when you're working with their money, right? We want to make
Yes.
sure that they when times, when markets are up and the markets are down, that their wherewithal of that is very very sounded. So our philosophy is educate, guide, and counsel. So we are constantly educating our clients on how to perceive different events, how to perceive sort of outcomes that happen with their investments, and ultimately, play for the long run and build out portfolios that we call it the velocity, where we're creating opportunities for them that are outside of just the investments that are therein. How do we take those investments and create additional opportunities for them? And that's really what we're really trying to drive for them is that.
Got it. And then next question for you, the flip side of that. How about timeless mistakes? Some that you've made or you've seen other people make, and how do you avoid them?
Yeah, I mean, so I mentioned one earlier, like just trying to make things too complicated. I think that's a really big mistake that a lot of people do. The other mistakes that I think people do is that they don't understand the different importances of the different uh, parts of a portfolio, right? So, allocation is really really important. But stock picking is not, right? So, like understanding the different levels of like where do you put your energy inside of the portfolio management process is critical. Over long periods of time, you use this evidence that we've gotten from the markets to make these decisions. So we're able to sort of take that evidence and use that. So a lot of times when people go on hunches, they follow the groups. Like let's say like, oh yeah, we all want to be in AI right now. Put everything in AI, right? It's such a hot thing. That's something that could cause problem. I mean, we saw that with MLPs. We saw that with commodities in the past. We've seen that in a lot of different areas where people kind of see this trend, and they're like, oh yeah, let's all put all in that. Whereas the allocation is important. So those are some of the, I think, mistakes people can do, is that they just kind of not think about the things that have worked instead of focusing on what's hot right now. You may have made a bunch of money doing that in the short term, but in the long term, you might not be very successful at it.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense. And then I guess next question for you. You've been around, you started with the CBOE, you've done options, you've done stocks, you look at a holistic approach from a trading standpoint, from putting all this together. I like what you said about the mistakes. People get too focused on things that don't matter as much and ignore the bigger holistic view on things. Let's talk about practically, like what are some cases, let's say if someone's listening and they want to incorporate some of your teachings or your advice, your life skills into their process. What practically could they do to help lean into the good and avoid the mistakes or less good things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity to think think through the options that you have, right? So what we see is, we have a lot of large asset managers, and they're doing things, and a lot of times you really don't know what they're doing. And so a lot of clients and people, high wealth, high net worth people are putting money into things that they don't really understand what's going on. So I would encourage everyone to take the time to learn as to like how things are working with their money. Because that education is really, really valuable. And so I feel that, if you're not getting educated on what's actually going on and behind the scenes as a client, you're not really getting the full experience of what your money's doing for you, right? And so my advice is that, no matter what people are doing, no matter how complicated it is, right? Like, so I've dealt with a lot of complicated, types of instruments, like you said, like options, futures, and along with, any, CDOs, CMOs, all that stuff. But essentially, there's a education around that, all of that can be simplified, explainable, and can kind of help you understand why you should be in that and why you shouldn't be, and you should ask those questions as a client, like, hey, is that is how will this do when the market's going down, or when what happened in 2008 or 2020 when COVID happened, right? Like, what are some of these things that are impacting these portfolios? And so don't just blindly, like, assume that the person that you're working with is going to know all those things. You want to ask them, and you want to make sure you learn them, so then you can kind of understand what's going on and be able to sit and have that peace of mind, right? That, hey, I know what's going on there, and like, well, we've seen good times, bad times, but it's going to work out in the long run, and that's really the essence of being fully understood, understandable, uh, you know, portfolio manager.
I love that. And then, Deep, next question for you. When it comes to managing money, so you started with nothing, assuming you started the CBOE, like you started from zero, and now you've got over 2 billion or 2 billion, depending on how you want to look at it, billions of dollars. Let's put it that way to be fair about it. Let's talk about the psychology about that and the skill, the upgrading the user is the language I like to use. You know, how you have a cell phone, you upgrade the phone every once in a while, or the
Yeah.
software needs to be upgraded. Let's talk about that journey, if you will, from a psychological standpoint, also from a practical standpoint. When a lot of the viewers, you start off young whippersnapper, and then you build your nest egg, and a lot of viewers have done that, and they're now successful, or they sold their business and now they have a big windfall. But psychologically, they're still stuck in the past, and they have a lot more now. How do you handle managing a lot more money? How has that evolution been
Yes.
for you? And please speak to that.
Yeah. No. What the way I think about it is it's the lessons that you've learned in the past help you understand what happened in the past, right? But they're not necessarily going to help you be successful in the future. And so that's
Right.
kind of the mindset that I've had from the beginning. Is that, like, what you need to do to be successful in the future is learn things to be able to adapt and be able to grow. And so the education that I can offer is that, like, we as a community need to always think about, like, longer term horizons. So instead of looking at, like, the next year and making a plan for that, look at the next 10 years and make a plan for that. And then when you give yourself that much more time to basically reach your goal, you're going to be able to innovate and get there and maybe even faster. But you're giving yourself time to do that work, because it's going to take work to do. So that's really the essence of where my journey um, has been really powerful for me. Is that I've always thought, even when you have failures, when you have disappointments, you can always say that, hey, that's going to help me learn what happened in the past, and that's been valuable to me. But to build a better future, I'm going to need to think about what I'm going to need to learn in order to be able to do that, and what goals do I set, maybe 10 years down the road, and give myself enough time to reach those goals, because you're going to be able to achieve goals that you set 10 years down. But if you set a goal for, like, in a month, I want to do this, that's going to be a lot harder, and you're going to be a lot more disappointed when it doesn't happen. But if you give yourself time to reach those goals, you can incrementally get there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that. Final question for you, Deepan, is what's the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience or your 30-year-old self?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. So I think the best piece of advice I can give my 30-year-old self would be to really um take the time to experience everything that you are have achieved in your life, right? Because what you never give yourself any credit, and then you don't realize like, hey, that's pretty amazing what you did, and so I think a lot of times people don't give themselves enough credit.
Yeah,
I think I would say, hey, give yourself enough credit that you've gotten to the place where you're at. Whether you like it or not, don't judge yourself. Just give yourself credit that, hey, you got here, you overcame quite a bit to be here. Now just focus on the future and make that as bright as possible, by working on the present, because that's really what the essence of getting to that future is going to be. And don't beat yourself about over for maybe any disappointments that you may have had.
love it. Well, Deepan, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully, we'll have you on again soon. This was fantastic. And where can people learn more and or reach out in case they
Yeah,
want to know more?
absolutely. Yeah, so our firm is invst.com. So feel free to reach out on our website. I can be reached out at LinkedIn. So feel free to look me up. It's DIPEN MEHTA. So I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepan. I'll have the link in the to your website in the description for the video.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you kindly.